are you saying that in some situations, the world would take care of a musician before the church will?
In some situations, I will say that. I will.
Wow.
Because some places, that asked for my, was interested in hiring me or whatnot, I've noticed they would penny pinch to the very end. Hey, well, you're only going to be sitting on that organ for an hour and a half, so you should only get $50. And I'm like, whoa, hey, you're not paying for my ability, you're paying for my availability. So I notice a lot of ministries. They do. There's a motive behind it. Let's get as much as we can out of a musician for as little as we can possibly fork out, because we got to keep the church running.
And that's interesting. This is where I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm just going to chime in for a second. To the person who's listening, that's saying, because the first thing that I would think if I heard what you just said is that's not fair. Because we're a small church, we're up and coming church, and we can't afford it as much. My response to you, and I know this would be your response anyway, Donnie, but I just want to make sure it's said, is that in the black community we have too many churches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If we were to combine and get together, we would be able to take care of people like they should be taken care of for their talents, and our musicians would be less likely to go to that secular gig. Their loyalty, because truth be told, I think a lot of musicians, you have fun out there, but a lot of musicians, they get a bad rap for, being womanizers and things like that, because musicians are dominantly male, right. Womanizers and things of that nature, but a lot of them really do have a heart for God. Sure. And would stay dedicated to the church, if the church would take care of them. So for a lot of you who've built churches based off bitterness,
yeah, true.
Your foundation is pride and seeking power. I would say humble yourself and let's get together.
That's a big thing, and me and my dad, we talked about that maybe a few years ago, and I told him, I posed that to him. I said, you know what, Dad, it would be amazing. I said, because we got more churches than we got corner stores and gas stations.
Then we got clubs.
And clubs and everything else. We got churches. You can go in a mile radius and definitely name 15, 20 different churches in the whole city. And the city ain't that big, so I said, but it would be amazing if all of these ministries, especially a lot of these small ones, could get together. I mean, if we all serving the same God, and we all believe in the same, Bible that we're preaching, and if we all just got together, you know what I mean? And how amazing! And then my dad. Now my dad. That's what I got a lot of my dad in me. He was like, but yeah, yeah, Tank. That's what he called me. He said, but problem would be the devil mess that up real quick. Cause the first thing he'd do, as soon as everybody get together and it's Jubilee and everybody happy and everything going on,
right?
He'd send somebody in there and they say, hey, who in charge?
And that's it. That's
grand opening, grand closing.
The grand closing.
Because then you got your people. I got to be the pastor. I got to be the head this, and I got to be the head that. And that's where all the the bitterness and confusion will come in.
And that's so funny you say that, because that is an African American problem.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is that they can't. Number one, very few people can name a Spanish church.
Right.
And when you find the Spanish church, all the Spanish people go to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
The chapel is the largest church in our area.
Yeah, in the region.
Their blueprint was about 6 pastors saying, why don't we just get together?
True.
And come together. And they have the largest church, and it's a beautiful church. Every church has its issues. I'm not going to say anything like they're like super, super great. But when you look at what they're able to do for their community out there, you know what I mean? The resources that they have due to the numbers, they got a lot of clout. I bet you nobody is no. What mayor do they? They're in Williamsville, right?
Yeah, I know. Through
Or
I
East.
can't even.
I bet you know
it's
I bet you know politicians is hollering at them before they, when they trying to get some votes.
Right, of course.
You know what? I asked that question. I was in front of my grandmother a while back.
Mm-hmm.
God rest her soul. And I said, and this was, I think I was about 20, and it wasn't as many churches in the area like it, because there's a bunch of them now.
Right.
And I said it out loud, and I said, Grandma, you know what? It's just too many churches in the area. And at that time, it's probably half of what it is now.
Right.
And, she answered me quick. She said, well, nobody talking about the liquor stores on the corner. And it hit me for a second and said, whoa. You know what I mean? Just for a second. Yeah. But like I said, at that time, it wasn't as many churches as it is now. People, like you said, you brought up a good thing. People are leaving. And what I discovered, people are leaving because they think they can do it better than the church that they under. They think they can get more people to come to their ministry just to be jumping. And I ain't picking on the young ones, but I got a problem with the young so-called called to pastor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't. I think it's almost like a presidential thing. Like you have to be seasoned to have that job. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't think that a lot of the young ones that do go on to try to start their own church, and we've seen it all through our little local area, that it doesn't work. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. You open and you close real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think those young, ministers, what they should be, they should be behind somebody. I think they add in a little bit of discouragement to some of these other young people that's coming to church, and then when they close up, they don't got nowhere to go. They just go right back to wherever they was, before they came to church.
True.
You know what I mean?
True. And here's the thing, and that what I do love about. Let me break off real quick. What I love about Soul Shock is we are here in a positive note. So I don't want y'all to think that we got a chip, bashing, or we got a chip on our shoulder. But the truth of the matter is this. It is a whole bunch of small, and I ask myself that question, like, how can we even reach the masses, real people who have real problems, when they look at the church and they see so much division, period. And we have division in so many different ways. Right. We got division, whether it's denomination, or if you haven't been baptized this way, you're not a part of this, or if you don't, you're long skirts, and then sneakers and white socks, the whole get up, earrings, and the whole, or you got to do it this way, or we gonna scare you into the fold and everything. Right. It's so much division that when people, even in our generation, because our generation is a show me type generation. Right. True story is they're gonna say, okay, well, what you're preaching about, I need to see it. I'm no longer gonna take your word for it. You know what I mean? What you're talking about, what you're telling me every Sunday, I'm not seeing. If I don't see an example of it in no time, the whole year you're talking about healing, and you're talking about this, and you're talking about that, and I'm coming off the street. I'm looking for something that's better than what I'm doing. I'm looking for a better position than where I'm at. And if I come here and all I get is this country club type situation, I'm a real person with real problems.
So let me ask you this. Because, and this is a great question to segue into by the fact that you said that. Now, I know a lot of pastors here. Most of them, are good-hearted people.
True.
Who are really serious about, what they believe in, whatever that may be. Right. Where did the power go?
To me, I call it, I said 4 P's, but it's so many P's. It's a P system that I call it. And it's a lot of these ministries, and a lot of, where the good-hearted went was to politics, power over people, that paper, that money, and prestige. Me being MDing at different place, music directing, or being a head organist, or being somewhat in demand in so many different arenas. And I'm not just talking about just the church situation, but in church events and whatnot. I've noticed a lot of different things, how people would even like try to manipulate people's mentals just so they can give that money.
Now, let me ask you a question. What do you feel like now? You got your home-based church, right? Just for example, you got another church that's reaching out to you and saying, we want to pay you $400 a week to play the organ, but your home-based church, kind of like what y'all just talking, is not paying you that much. You know what I'm saying? They paying you half of that. I mean, what do you recommend for? I mean, what would you do?
Actually, that's funny you asked, because I was actually put in that situation, and I'll definitely shout out Pastor Scott. That's why anybody that know me, that's why I play it. I play it where the
I like Pastor Scott.
Yeah, he's a good. He's
a good dude. Shout out to Pastor Scott.
And my thing was, and my actual home church that I was actually that membership was considered is Elam Christian Fellowship in Buffalo. Well, and this is not to throw anything or have nobody need to be looking at anything any kind of way, but true story. I mean, because I was playing there, and then I shoot back to Niagara Falls, because here's the true story. At the end of the day, I was made an offer at my home church, for full time. And my thing was, hey, Pastor Scott hired me when nobody was really trying to pay. And that's just real talk. Right. I mean, I'm talking about I back in early 2001, when he hired me and put me on, and I gave him my fee. He went with it and he was fair. You know what I mean? And my thing is when you're dealing with somebody that's fair, that I've been there 13 years, you'll get that dedication,
loyalty,
and that loyalty. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to bidding, it all depends. And everybody's situation is not the same.
Right. You
know what I'm saying? Because some people, they get hired into a ministry or a church and they get lowballed right from the start.
Right.
And they're making, whatever X, Y, and Z, and they don't have no intentions on, looking out for them or whatever the case is. And if they get another shot, and if they, I will always say, hey, bring it to your leader and say, hey, I'm being offered this.
Right.
What can we work something out? I've been here for X amount of time or whatever the case is. Just to be fair. And I think that's my main point, just to be fair all the way around.
Because when I was in the church, heavy,
right?
For anybody listening who knows me, I am still very spiritual.
Oh yeah.
Still very spiritual. Probably the more spiritual than I've ever been in my life. But when I was in that realm, I used to do praise and worship.
Yeah.
And for so long, I used the word prostituted. I was prostituted for my gift.
Yeah.
And by that, what I mean is I sang, somebody else got paid all the money, benefiting from me singing, and I got nothing.
Right.
Because that's what hoes do.
True.
They go out, they get daddy that money. They create the feeling. They get daddy his money, and he take care of them with smiles and whatever. He keep them looking good.
Right.
And it's very important that you was transparent like that, because a lot of people, it's like they say, oh, it's supposed to be ministry. Yeah. What you do is supposed to be ministry. But when you look at it biblically, he provided, and when I say he, capital H,
right,
he provided us with gifts to make way for us.
Right. True
so that
indeed.
we can live.
True indeed.
So, yeah.
That's actually true. And here's the truth. Here's the even bigger truth. Because a lot of people use that term, oh, it's ministry. You should do it from out of your heart because it's ministry. You're supposed to be doing this for the Lord. But at the end of the day, it's a business. The church organization is still a business. And that's the part that, because we can't be half this and half that. At the end of the day, you can't say, oh, it's ministry here, but then when it works for my pockets, it's business. Or, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we're preaching the gospel and we're doing what we got to do to, but, there's still a business.